Hello everyone, my name is Spencer and this is an overview of the 4N Motorsport single turbo kit for an N54. Currently I have a E92 335i with Turbo Parts Canada 19Ts on it. I built the car for roll racing and basically I'm just really out of headroom on those twins and don't want to say I got bored with the setup, but I wanted to push the envelope. So I decided to go with a single turbo kit. And I don't really have a lot, or there isn't on the platform, there's not a lot of people that I can even find online that run this kit. So I just wanted to give a brief overview of the kit and just kind of talk about some of the contents and kind of why I'm doing the swap. All right, so for those again that don't know, I currently only built the car for roll racing and potentially some half-mile stuff if we get some events around here in the tri-state area that offer that, some runway events and things like that. But ultimately, it's a roll race car, as silly as that may sound. So the idea behind why I went with this kit is really just mitigating back pressure and increasing the volumetric efficiency of the engine as much as possible. So I don't do YouTube videos a lot, but I just don't, this is not a common kit at all for N54s, and I wanted to just kind of explain why I chose what I did and a couple of just kind of the selection of parts here. And you'll notice some fueling stuff down here that we'll get to in a second. So starting from the top, this is an EFR 9280. That's a Borg Warner, their EFR series of turbos. This is the largest EFR turbo that's currently on the market. A 9280 is, in precision terms, it's the equivalent of like a 7480. So it's a 73.7 millimeter inducer. That's a 4-inch inlet there, but it's a 92 millimeter exducer. That's where they get their naming. So this turbo, I'm going to go ahead and kind of put it to the side. If I can lift it up. This turbo is actually internally gated, and you don't see that on a lot of setups. In fact, I don't know of any N54 that I've seen with an internally gated turbo. I know it may be strange, but using the MHD Plus and the boost control logic that's available now, single bank fueling and everything, using an internal gate plus a max solenoid to control everything, I thought was going to be ideal just because of the way the wastegate setup is on the EFR turbos. That prioritizes gate flow. It should increase spool time, but ultimately the EFRs were engineered initially with internally wastegating in mind. So that's why I wanted to do an internally gated setup. Not only that, but the EFR kit, which again, not a lot of people are running this kit. I've seen a couple of them online. They've had kits for a few years, but it's just not a common kit. A lot of people may know their turbo kit from their D-stroked N55 build and S55 build they have that rev to like 9,000 RPM. I'll put a link in the description below. But it's a true equal length turbo kit, utilizing a T4 true twin skull divided flange there. But it's a 321 stainless kit, which is a little higher temperature resistant than your traditional 304. It's a 300 series stainless that's infused with titanium. So that's nice for kind of any high temperature application, which again, this car is really just for roll racing, but at the end of the day, if I'm able to have a durable turbo kit, that's kind of ideal. But yeah, this kit is really designed with complete equal length runners and equal flow for all 6 cylinders, and that's something that I've noticed on the log manifolds and also the Dock Race kit and a few of the other single turbo kits that have come and go in the market over the years. But I've noticed that not all of them run an equal length setup, and now that everyone's moved to single bank fueling, I think that's really important that you have an equal length manifold, because with single bank fueling, you're not really getting that clarity of kind of flow between bank 1 and bank 2. So having equal length, hopefully, it's all in theory, but it really mitigates any differential flow between each cylinder, which I really like and think is important. So a lot of people may wonder, why did I choose a EFR 9280 over maybe even the EFR 8474? And just for the record, the 4N Motorsport kit that you're seeing here is engineered exclusively for the EFR Turbo series. They used to make an externally gated setup, but just with the success that they've had with the internally gated setups, and also the simplicity in packaging that the internally gated setups have, this is the only turbo they offer EFR series off the shelf of the turbo kits. But now the EFR 9280 is a 110 pound per minute turbo. Many would say is overkill for a stock bottom end N54. Yes, this is a stock bottom end N54. It's got 122,000 miles. It's an 8-bolt engine. It's got great compression relative to the age. Every cylinder was within 154 to 162 PSI on dry cold compression. But nonetheless, the entire reason and rationale behind this turbo kit for my car was really, again, mitigating any back pressure and also maximizing the volumetric efficiency of the engine. So this turbo, albeit an 80 millimeter turbine wheel and a 74 millimeter inducer compressor wheel, has a gamma titanium turbine wheel, which, to spare a bunch of details, it's a very light turbine wheel. And I'll go ahead and turn the turbo around so you can see. An easy way to sum it up is that gamma titanium is extremely light, comparative to an N-Canal wheel or traditional Borg-Warner and other manufacturers. I know Garrett and Precision are using MAR-M alloy, which is just another super alloy. This wheel is about half the weight of a traditional super alloy wheel, which should allow, in conjunction with the divided manifold and true twin scroll, should help the turbo spool relatively quickly compared to another 80 millimeter turbine wheel. I know that Garrett and Precision use the MAR-M alloy, which is kind of the newer super alloy on the market, but gamma titanium is proprietary to Borg right now, and hopefully that is going to allow the turbo to spool by relatively good amount of RPM. I'm hoping around 4,000 RPM we'll be able to make north of 20 pounds of boost. So again, this turbo, it's rated for 110 pounds per minute, which roughly translates to about 1050 or 1100 wheel horsepower, depending on how aggressively the turbo is pushed. Let's just call it a clean 1,000 wheel horsepower. I'm not going to make that sort of power on my car, but the goal was to not stress the turbo, or the turbo system for that matter, given the power goals that I have. So dyno numbers don't really mean a lot to me. I'm more concerned with like a draggy time or results from racing, specifically roll racing. But if I were to kind of quote it in a dyno gen number, and it will be tuned on a dyno, I just don't particularly know which dyno I'll put it on. I would like to be able to make 800 wheel horsepower from this setup with relative ease on the turbo system. Now, I'm not stupid. It's very likely that the motor will let go. That's just kind of unfortunately the nature of the beast when you're pushing a 2006 built N54 with 100,000+ miles on it to basically almost triple the original engine horsepower. I mean, they're rated at 300 crank. We know that's a little low, but ultimately 300 crank horsepower to, if it's making 800 wheel, that's north of 900 crank horsepower. Nonetheless, I really wanted to have a build that would mitigate back pressure and also allow the engine to breathe, so to speak, with the least amount of resistance. So The 4N kit has been on several cars, S55, N55s that have made over 800 wheel. I know they have an S55 single turbo kit with a E9280 that has made well over 900 wheel on the same exact manifold design. Obviously the cold side piping is different with that car having an air to water, but the setup is more than capable to deliver 800 wheel horsepower, which is really the goal of what I'm doing. So kind of back to the kit, some other kind of interesting things. So this kit also does not utilize the Borg-Warner wastegate actuator. It actually uses a TurboSmart IWG75 here. So notoriously, the older Borg-Warner EFRs were known to have a little bit of issues with boost control with the Borg-Warner wastegate, kind of the canister here. So a lot of people over the years, and TurboSmart actually engineered this internal wastegate controller, or the wastegate solenoid here, for the EFR turbos, for that reason. So they kind of got not the greatest rep. And I know Borg-Warner has since corrected those wastegate issues on the Black Series, which was the later turbos released in 2019. But ultimately, this particular turbo has an 18-pound spring in it, which should easily be able to net somewhere to the neighborhood of the 32, 34 PSI of boost, which I don't think that we're going to run this setup that hard. Given the size of this turbo, if we were to quote in traditional dyno jet numbers, I would say it's safe to assume at 30 PSI, this turbo is going to move enough air. Given the entire efficiency of the system, 30 PSI is going to be well enough to make 800 horsepower at the wheels. On a dyno jet, they seem to be roundabout at that point. I mean, this turbo, if you look at the compressor map, it's about on par with a Garrett G42 1200. That turbo is roundabout the same compressor map as this. The 1150 is also pretty close. But nonetheless, given the compressor map, drive pressure, I really don't see us going over 28 to 30 pounds to really make the power or the race results that I'm looking for. But nonetheless, this turbo, it is large, but again, summing it up, we're trying to increase the efficiency of the engine and really let it breathe. I mean, N54s don't have the best flowing heads. So if you're choking that up with a smaller turbo, like I know a 64, 66 next gen that's 1,000 horsepower turbo all day. But again, this turbo kit, the kit that I really wanted to get, you can't run that turbo. And secondly, this is far larger in terms of efficiency. This should net a lower EGT, lower back pressure, and also the bias pressure, the bias ratio between compressor side boost and the exhaust drive pressure is going to be lower on this setup. So all those things really help mitigate misfires, EGT, any sort of knock. The goal is to mitigate any symptoms that are notorious for making N54s have problems. I run 29 pounds on my twins that I currently have, and I'm not experiencing any misfires or knock, but I do run leaded E85 in my car. But I'm kind of flip-flopping to go to a very high efficiency setup, which is really what this single turbo kit is all about. So now that kind of summarizes what this turbo is. Oh, this will be removed, by the way. There's a couple parts here that are en route. I have a max solenoid, some additional lines, and then the block-off plate for this. I am going to use my TurboSmart blow-off valve that I already have in the charge pipe. You can use this if you'd like. This is a recirculation valve. It's built into all the EFR turbos. You do not have to use it, but you need to block it off if you already have a blow-off valve. And for anyone that's interested, this is a provision. This is a BOS for a turbo speed sensor. I'm not utilizing that. I was going to and run it through my Motive Reflex, but it's just more money and more parts that are not extremely pertinent, especially for the sake that I'm not going to be running this turbo near the limits of its airflow capabilities. So that'll be blocked off. So the last thing I wanted to talk about here that I have showing is the Helix. So many of you, or anyone that knows me, knows that I used to run a Helix 3X on my car before I had port injection. So I'm actually putting a Helix back on the car. So the reason that is is I tuned with David Shute, and many of you will know that he's a big fan of direct injection, as am I. Direct injection has a numerous number of benefits when it works. Well, I'll put that caveat in there. I've gotten into arguments with a few people online regarding the disadvantages of DI, and especially on the N54 with the reliability constraints, injectors, injector bores, high pressure fuel pump failures. You have to port the rail, take the filter out, etc., etc. Here's the deal. So I have the Phoenix Raceworks, which is just the Chinesium cast intake manifold with D-Torque 750cc injectors. This setup nearing 800 wheel, you're going to need to run a larger injector than a 750. You're probably going to be cresting the limits of the duty cycle. We were getting close to 70% duty cycle on my twins with my setup without the Helix on port injection. And really talking to David about the power goals and what we have in mind for the EFR, we really want to be able to lean on DI as much as we can. So what that means is either in order to do the DI, to lean heavily on the DI, there's nothing else I could do. They don't make bigger injectors. They don't make a bigger high pressure fuel pump. For you N54 people, you know that, but I don't know who may be watching this. So I'm actually putting a Helix back on the car to make up the difference for fuel flow that I'm going to need for the single turbo kit. This is going to allow me to run more fuel volume out of the DI side of things. I have index 12s. I know the Helixes can make some noise. I had one for 3 years on 2 separate twins. I didn't have any really major issues with it. I did have a slight oil leak from the vacuum pump. We sealed that up and fixed that previously. And like I said, it doesn't have a Helix on the car now, and everything is fine. My short-term fuel trims and injectors seem to be doing just totally fine, and they've been on E85 for 4 years. But putting the Helix back on the car, the goal is to really have almost that 50-50 fuel mass distribution between DI and PI. So being able to load about half of our fuel volume on the DI is really going to help actually increase the volumetric efficiency of this whole kit. Reason being is by not spraying fuel on the intake tract, you're actually freeing up some space in there for airflow, which reduces boost because it's less of a restriction. I know that may sound stupid, but there's a great video from my friends down in Central Kentucky, James Short over at BTR, kind of showing how direct injection versus port injection has impacts on power numbers and also really airflow on an engine. Now, they used a LTX-based engine that was naturally aspirated, but the theory prevails on any platform. If you're able to alleviate or relieve any sort of restriction in the intake tract, albeit even if it's fuel, that's a plus. You're increasing the volumetric efficiency, plus the DI has much greater fuel control, and utilizing the stock DME for fueling really increases the control that the DME logic and all the PID adders and everything have over the air fuel mixture. Finally, because I run a leaded E85, we do run pretty aggressive ignition timing, and direct injection has better fuel atomization, better flame propagation qualities when ignited, and ultimately utilizing DI is safer. It is just flat out safer when it works. I will accept that a lot of people can have injector issues and high pressure fuel pump issues, but I'm willing to take the risk. I mean, when you're wanting to make record power and you're wanting to have record times, you got to be willing to take a risk. So I'm willing to do that. This is just a fun car to me. I don't daily drive the car at all. If you've seen my other videos, you can see my YouTube channel. The car has about 700 pounds of weight taken out of it. There's no interior. There's no stereo. It's got one seat. It's I don't want to call it a race car because it couldn't really go anywhere from a stop right now at all. It's really just a roll racing car, just a fun little highway car to have fun with the platform. And I acknowledge that it's not capable at all from a dig. But at the end of the day, I mean, you have to push the envelope somewhere to really get what you want to get out of these cars to this level. Overall, this is the turbo kit. This is the fueling I'm deciding to go with. So For any of those that haven't watched my other videos, the low pressure fuel pump setup is it's twin 535s. It's a Precision Raceworks stage 3.5 or 3.75. I don't know what they call it these days. It's two 535s in a bucket. So that's the fueling, and then this is the turbo kit. We'll do some other kind of little, you can pause the video if you want to see any of this stuff. There's some cold side piping on the intake. And this is a bottom mount kit. I don't know if that seems clear enough to understand, but this is a bottom mount kit. This turbo would in no way fit on the top. So there's some drain lines, V-bands, there's a little lock for the, or a little connector here for the compressor outlet. But yeah, that's it. So again, the number, the draggy time I'm really looking to get 60 to 130 is mid 4s. So I'm hoping to get a 4.5 out of the car. I'll be happy with anything under 4.6. I know the stock record right now is, the stock motor record is in the 4.7 range. I did a 5.1 on 19 Ts with a stock engine, stock transmission, stock suspension. Not pictured here. I'm doing the 6HP 28 swap. So that's the GuruAutoworks V5 kit. It's not pictured here. I'm just kind of hijacking a living room in my house here. Don't have that pictured here, but doing that, also converting to the LSE9X Foxbody front end suspension swap with Strange coilovers. In the rear, I have a Monroe drag shock alongside XI springs, removing the front sway bar. Also have an MFactory limited slip differential that's going in the car. And finally, the Weld RTS S71 15-inch 15x10 with an ET Street R that's being put on the car. I already have drag brakes. So all in all, that's the setup. I know it's a lengthy video, but I just wanted to go through a review of what I was doing with the car. I haven't posted many updates on it because I've just kept it twins for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. But I'm finally making the switch to a single. And we'll just see how the motor holds up. It may let go here soon, but it's all part of the fun. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm pretty active in all the Facebook N54 forums as well. Feel free to let me know. I didn't talk about it, but that's a shield. It does have a shield that goes for the valve cover. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you for watching.